A Palestinian Muslim converts to Christianity and shares his powerful testimony. Make sure you watch to the end to see how his family, friends, and his father reacted. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy.
Oh, I remember that prayer. I remember it was hard. It was hard. I could cry thinking about it. Why? Because it was my last prayer as a Muslim. And it was my prayer looking up to heaven. I was on my knees and I looked up to heaven. I said, oh God, I pray, that what they said was true. I pray that Muhammad was not a false teacher or a false prophet. Oh God, I pray that the Quran is true and that you are who they said you were. And then something rose up in me and I began to get, right, like you ever got angry at God? You ever get, come on, Carmen, she's my girl. She's like, yes, honey, baby, let's yell at him, right? But that's faith. This is the walk of faith. And I remember I went up, I looked back up and I said, oh, but how cruel of you. How cruel of you to leave me hanging for 3 years in this crisis and no one to talk to. And God, where are you? And it was in that moment I thought, you know what? I've been making excuses. I've been doing the job of God. And this is on this day, Lord, whoever you are, I'm up for grabs. I said that. I said, I'm up for grabs. And I pray that you are the God of the Quran who grabs me. Because if you're not, if Jesus is the one on that throne, I'm about to find him. And I got up off of that prayer mat and I went back to the same pew. And I watched, this time, for the first time that I can remember, actually celebrating the Christian's spiritual checklist. Oh, it was amazing. Oh, it was something I had never experienced before. Suddenly God, who was this ethereal myth in the heavenly somewhere, now becomes in front of you, standing there, whispering to your soul that, hey, you are not alone and I love you. I don't know what they said to you. I don't know who lied to you, but the truth is you are loved. Oh, that's worthy of clap. Oh my God. I remember thinking 99 names of Allah, not one of them is love. Oh, hundreds of descriptions of Allah in the Quran and what he likes and does not like. And oh, so often, for Allah loves not the sinner. For Allah loves not the transgressor. For Allah loves not, and then you feel hundreds of them. Loves not, loves not. And I went from being loved not to being so loved that he gave his only begotten son. Oh, come on, somebody. You see, we clap and I'm thankful. Thank you for celebrating that. And I celebrate it all the time. But what do you do whenever that clapping becomes noise of clamor and conflict? What do you do when your family is looking straight at you and not happy with you? What do you do when the rubber has to meet the road and you have to actually not just make a decision here, but you have to make a decision here? You have to take a stand. See, I gave my heart to the Lord in that tender age. As college happened, I'll just read it to you from the book because I wrote it better than I can say it. The biggest issue for me was facing Islam now. I could not live that way any longer. You see, I had, the day after I went to that church, I went upstairs to the Christians and I said, guys, I'm tired of my 3-year struggle. If Jesus is true, then I need to find out the truth. They said, Hazem, we will help you, but you have to promise one thing. And I said, what's that? They said, you promise not to tell anybody. It's different from here, right? Go and tell somebody. But not in the Middle East. And I looked at those happy Christians who told me not to say a thing to anybody. That's a mild, by the way, that's me underplaying it. And I looked at them and I said, trust me, you have nothing to worry about. Because I'm macho and I'm courageous. Not. Well, the rubber meets the road. The war escalated. We came back to America. I graduated high school. And you know when you're plotting a twist for a story? This was me. My plot was I was going to leave home in the name of college because that was a good, legitimate excuse. And then as I'm away from home, that's when I'll tell them. So 3 hours away, I'm finally free from the bondage that I was in. I've been a believer for a few years now. I didn't have a Bible. I didn't have a youth group. I didn't have a church. All I knew was I had an experience, and I knew the story that Jesus loves me. This I know. Why? For the Bible tells me so, and I'll figure all else out later. I struggled frantically to find the right words to say to my father. Come home, work with your brothers in the store, and never mind school, he said. As I spoke to him now, we were a few miles apart, 3 hours. It didn't really matter that I argue or even state my case. It seemed futile, but I had to speak. And I said, Yaba, I cannot come home. His voice grew louder and angrier. He began to curse. I continued, I can't come home because it's time for me to be my own man. I'm different and I don't live the way you live any longer. See, for me, the biggest issue facing me was Islam. I could not live that way. I simply wanted the freedom to live for Christ. I could not openly say to my father that I wanted to live as a Christian. I didn't want to hurt him even more. By now, my father was livid. This was the first time I chose to have a say in my own life to my father. In that tiny college dorm room, I sat alone, my ears ringing, my heart beating loudly. I wanted time to think about all that was happening, but there was no time. To get to where I was from my father, he would need 3 hours by car. Of all the steps I had taken in my life, up to this point, this one seemed to be the hardest. It was one I knew I would eventually have to take, and I procrastinated for a few years. It was my personal Gethsemane moment when I had to make that final decision to follow God no matter what the cost. You say, Hazm, stop being so dramatic. What's the big deal? Here's the big deal. What if on some dark night someone decided to carry the Quran's dreaded command against ex-Muslims? If they forsake you, Muhammad said, pursue them and kill them where you find them. For an ex-Muslim, Jesus' words, there will come a day when those who will kill you will think they are doing God a service. Those words of Jesus are tangible and they are real to me. They are the mirror reflection of the Quran's oftenly repeated admonitions of how to deal with infidels, and more importantly, apostates. The Quran's words were like an executioner with his sword, ready to strike at any moment. For many, that sword, unfortunately, has already struck. For others, the sword is on its final arc. See, when you're an ex-Muslim, those words, they will try to kill you thinking they are doing God a service. They quickly jump off the pages of the Gospel of John with a familiarity, an eerie familiarity. See, I had heard those words before, exactly almost, but from the other side of the sword. At first, Jesus' warning feels like a cold winter chill that makes you shiver. But when we embrace his words, that's when they become a powerful gale that fills our sails, propelling us into all the world. See, the Christian, I just like to make this one point. The Christian walk is not, it is beautiful. It is for sure beautiful. It is beauty amongst ashes. But sometimes the walk of the Christian is ugly. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it's nasty. Sometimes it's dirty. Sometimes it's all of these things. And I want you to know that it's okay. Because that's called the wrestling with the Lord. That's called the wrestling with truth.
I'll leave a link to the full video in the description. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments. I'll check you later.